G'day guys, right, this is part 2 of defending a speeding ticket. Not that you should have to defend your innocence, but unfortunately in a country where you have a presumption of innocence, it doesn't stay that way unless you actually maintain it and defend your innocence. So, part 2 is the memorandum to a judicial officer. The reason I've put that instead of memorandum to judge is because when you're dealing with speed camera tickets, you may be stuck in front of a couple of geriatric old farts that call themselves justices of the peace. They really don't have much law experience. Anyone can be a JP. My old boss was a JP. Made it really handy when I got divorced from my first wife. I didn't even have to leave work. I told her to come in and he just put his fucking stamp on it. Brilliant. But then my first wife didn't like her, having to have my last name. Joking. Everybody thought she was joking. My current wife, Leah. If they pronounce her name wrong, it's Lee. And then she's leaking. So you can't fucking win. Anyway, moving on. Now this is, like I say, Memorandum to Judicial Officer and Application for Disclosure. What this does, and please excuse him, no, I'm not giving you food, mate. No, out you go, trottle off. Right, so, again, this is in template number 2, in the templates folder. In the description of all of my videos, you just look for the link called Legal Templates for All, and inside that folder there is templates for speed camera tickets. And if you look in there, everything I'm referring to is there for you guys to look at. Again, just fill in the red bits, everything else is written for you. It's a no-brainer, alright? But that doesn't mean you should be stupid. Now, in this, this is of course a court file. This isn't a letter to just the police or the Infringement Bureau. This is a letter filed in court, alright? So you have to do it in a particular format, 1.5 spacing, the Times Roman or Calibria or whatever type of font that's clear, size 10 to 12. And anyway, you'll find when you start writing court documents that there are particular margins and fonts and everything that you must set out. And if the registrars want to be particular arseholes, like Dwayne down in Rotorua, for instance, a complete wanker. If you want to, strike a registrar that's gone a little power crazy, they can be sticklers. So yeah, little things like that can catch you out. So in this memorandum, I write off, the I, you put your full name and, given names in lowercase, capitalised last name, and then a self-litigant to hereby give notice that the full capitalised name, the name that's on the ticket, the defendant has to date not received initial disclosure from Manukau Police Prosecution Services regarding this matter. Now, that's Manukau because this wasn't at Manukau. In that you put the location, whatever jurisdiction of the court, or wherever the nearest court is that you got the ticket from is usually that. And this, the part 3, the notice of appearance, is very handy, especially if you get a ticket, like we're in Auckland, you get a ticket up to Whangarei. You don't want to spend $130 odd in petrol going all the way to Whangarei and back just to say not guilty. This is what this letter does. It saves you that entire trip and just move on. Alright, so you're filling that out. The defendant requested a court hearing to discuss the matter along with initial and full disclosure, which is part 1. You asked for that on whatever date it was that you asked. Neither initial or full disclosure has to date been supplied. Why? Because police do whatever the fuck they like. They don't really care about initial and full disclosure or about giving you any help or anything that you're, legally required to have. They will just chuck whatever you get and you'll be happy with it. I mean, don't be such a petulant child and just be happy that the police are even speaking to you, for fuck's sake. I mean, we pay them to ignore us. Don't forget that. Now, in this understanding, the defendant, in accordance with the Criminal Disclosure Act, Section 2008, Section 13(7)(b), which is to avoid doubt, a reference to subsection 1, a plea of not guilty includes B, requesting a hearing in accordance with the Summary Proceedings Act 1957, which is what you did in the last letter. So, yeah, they got no pot to piss in. A notice of appearance shall be filed in due course, because you want to ask for disclosure first before you hit them up with a notice of appearance. These two things you send after you've got your ticket, or your notice of proceedings, your charging document, after you've got your court hearing. This is what you send before the first court hearing date. Preferably this, then after that you send the notice of appearance. One little addendum is you usually get like a, say a cover letter like that with the charging document that you get after you've requested a hearing. That is what you're expecting to get next. Take note right here. Now I'll fold it over and you'll see this beautiful little line here. All right, now I'll read it out to you, and this is generic because I've got a couple of copies of this for different tickets. And it says, should you wish to defend the matter on a not guilty plea, you, and they've put underlined in bold, must attend court on that first appearance date to formally confirm your plea and arrange a future date for a full hearing. That's a complete lie. I have had several tickets now, and several people I've helped, where once you've requested a hearing, they want an appearance from you. Now, as I've said before, an appearance in legal jargon, and you can look up a Westlaw dictionary if you want, an appearance is a novation or memorandum. It has nothing to do with the meat stick being anywhere. All right, you attend places, you appear differently because they're wanting, the name to appear. So what you do is you do the same thing they do. Give them a piece of paper back. They gave you a piece of paper. It's only fair. I mean, these things are called stationery for a reason. If you don't act on them, they don't move. So, yeah, when they say you must attend, that is an out and out, flat out lie that I have proven numerous times before. You don't have to attend. You simply send in what is called a notice of appearance. Okay? In that notice of appearance, you formally enter a not guilty plea. And anyway, notice of appearance is part 3. So you can go through this, and it's really self-explanatory. I have quoted all of the law and legislation in it as well, but you'll notice in this document that I have little footnotes, the little, say, if we look at, say, page 4 on paragraph, it's number 6, I'll refer under the Criminal Disclosure Act 2008, section 13, and then there's a little 4 next to it. Then if you go down to the bottom of the page, you'll see the 4 refers to Criminal Disclosure Act 2008, section 13. And then if I'm referring to anything in a footnote, then that becomes an authority, and you send that with the document. Okay? So in the template, in the templates for speed camera tickets, inside there is a subfolder called authorities. Simply download those few authorities that I've got there, they're referred to in the document, and send that off by email to the email addresses. If you need the email address of the district court, it's usually, say if it's manukau.dc@justice.govt.nz, they stick to that same format. If it was Timaru, it would be timaru.dc. And for the police prosecution services, it's usually pps.manukau@police.govt.nz, or it'll be pps.timaru@police.govt.nz. Okay, it's a standard format. If you're not sure, just send them a friendly email like I often do, called confirmation of email address. Hi, can you please confirm this is the email address for such and such as PPS? They will respond back going, yes it is. And that way you have verification that it was the correct email. Sometimes they'll say, well, we never got it. Well, if you're doing that first and confirming it's their email address, they don't have a pot to piss in. Because the police prosecution services, PPS, like to sometimes put the location .pps. So for Auckland, it can be 2 different places. For Central City, it's pps.auckland, or it could be auckland.pps. So I send it to both, and I got responses from both. So be thorough, send it to all of them. It's no harm in doubling up the paperwork. Fuck them. Right, so you're sending all this, you're putting the authorities that I'm referring to, and you're also referring to the letter that you sent to the NZPIB, and this as an authority. Okay, and like I say, you then just attach the Criminal Disclosure Act Section 12, and that's a 2-page thing, Criminal Disclosure Act Section 13. If they don't supply you disclosure, you can then put in a request under Section 30 of the Criminal Disclosure Act for the court, for the judge, to order the police to supply you disclosure, like I just did with Tony last week. Okay? If they haven't supplied disclosure within a reasonable or practical time, then you have a right to it. It's an abusive process if they don't. And I'll show you how to file a Section 147 application to have the case dismissed, okay, under Section 147. I'll even throw some police case law in there, okay, which they can't argue with, because it's already been, there's case law for that you can use. Alright, so you're sending all that, Section 30, like I said, and then New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, Section 25. On this one, I'm also, because I'm going to be Tony's lay assistant, I've also filled out an authority to act form, which I'll throw in that folder as well for you, and also a document called Undertakings by Proposed Lay Assistant. This is the document that the judge referred to in Tony's case last week, saying that normally there's a form filled out. You don't have to. If the judge wants to allow it on the day, you can do it orally, just request orally, like I did with Tony. But if they get picky and want something in writing, do that as well. This was actually a family court undertaken by proposed lay assistant document that I basically just turned into a district court one, and made it suit. Alright, so that is part 2. It is called the Memorandum to Judicial Officer or Application for Disclosure. Again, it's in the links in the description. Go and have a look. That's part 2 to challenging your speed ticket. I'll see you very shortly with part 3. Bye now.